everybody. Welcome to the 20th episode of Shit Creek Survivors. Can you believe it? This is the show where we openly share stories of resilience and share tools for resilience. Now, this is the 20th episode, so we're going to be discussing the key things from the last episodes. Join us as we take a look back at our powerful conversations and insights in our first 20 episodes. We'll revisit key things like navigating new adult fears, Cameron, actually, my story of near death experience and its profound impact on my life, exploring the spectrum of near death encounters, the role of faith, the journey of personal growth, and the challenging path towards forgiveness. Ultimately, we'll reflect on how every moment, good and bad, shapes the person we are today. Here we go. All right, everybody, we are here for episode 20. Can you believe it? And we're going to use this
20.
2-0. And
2-0.
we're gonna use this opportunity to reflect and kind of figure out what's happened in the last 20 episodes, because prior to starting this, it seemed like a mountain to get to 20 episodes, and now we're at 20 episodes, and it feels
It
right.
felt like a mountain to do one episode. I mean,
It
every
did, yeah.
episode feels like a mountain. I still can't, like, even last night, I had a hard time sleeping. All this morning, I've had a hard time staying focused. I've had several trips to the bathroom because of nerves. So, like, the
Really?
nerves really hit me hard on this. It really does. And I think I do a pretty good job of not acting like it right now. Like, I get in the moment, I know I see the record button going on, and I just kind of like go, let's just stay focused. And, Lord, help me say the right things that resonates with somebody.
That's what it's about. That's the
And
best prayer to say when you get
yeah,
nervous about public speaking. It's just like, just talk through me. I'm an
yeah,
idiot. Like, just let it land. Let hopefully you land on someone through the
yep.
words that are spouting out of my ugly, mashed up mouth. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I get what you're
Put
saying, and then all of a sudden it
put your
comes
glove
out.
to put your glove to work. I'm
Yeah,
here. I'm your glove. I'm ready to be filled in your image and do the work you want me to do.
that's
Uh,
so cool.
but yeah,
And
those nerves are I mean, it's every single one, and it's hard to believe it's 20. Like I can't even like recall every single one of them right now in my head. But I guess I could if I really thought about it.
not at all. And we were just talking about, life changes so quickly. And something we were just talking about is after I got injured, the
Yeah.
weirdest thing happened to me, and I became deathly afraid of heights. Like I had never actually felt that sensation before where you get up on an edge and you're like, whoa. I used to be like the kid hanging on the railing while my mom was,
Yeah.
hugging the lighthouse, like, don't go next to the railing. I'm like, it's fine, mom, this sort of thing.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, I suddenly got a fear of heights, and it was so strange. And you were mentioning after I mentioned that kind of
Yeah.
happened
I
to
wonder if
you.
it's
And
connected somehow with some, like, I'm not an expert of this, so anybody out there that knows more about this or knows somebody that knows more about this, get some information from them, put it in the comments, or get them in touch with us. Let's get them on the show. We want to know how this works. Is it related to PTSD? Could it be related to, like, going under an anesthesia with the anesthesia for all surgeries and stuff like that? Could that be like a byproduct of it?
right,
Because I was feeling it like the same way. Like, mine's gotten so bad, I can't even clean my gutters out of my leaves anymore. I just hired somebody to do it last week because I feel like I'm gonna fall off the ladder just halfway up one story.
you,
And
you
then
know,
even in elevators is the one I was going to that I really noticed it. Like, you're in a safe spot, but it's a glass elevator.
right,
And I was with my nephew. He wanted to go up and down and up and down, so I'm doing it. But every time I kind of stepped out to the edge of it, even though there's glass there and you're protected, all of a sudden it's just like it hits you. You're like, whoa!
oh yeah,
And just that moment of just you can't even move. Your feet are heavier. The weight in the stomach just gets heavier, and your hips just sink down. Your hands go out to get your balance. You're like,
yeah.
so what does that? What
I
does that?
I don't know. It's probably a combination of a whole bunch of things. My dad had issues with his equilibrium towards the end of his career in law enforcement, or maybe after his career in law enforcement, or wherever. He started noticing that like he was having a little bit of issues with balance, and I think one of his doctors said that it potentially was from time in service, shooting guns,
Uh,
and
yeah,
then
that's another
and
one. Do you
then
have tinnitus?
yeah, so it's like, where it can mess up that equilibrium in there.
Yeah.
But there's just a whole
That
bunch of
actually makes
stuff
a
going
lot of sense. I bet it is. Do you have tinnitus? Do you have ringing in your ear?
on. A tiny bit. I mean, not
Okay.
noticeable where it drives me crazy.
No,
I
it
know
will. It will get worse and worse and worse as time goes on. That's fun.
it.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
You keep going to the doctor for.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, it is what it is. Pretty soon, it's like you can't. I hate being in silent situations because all I hear is "ee." It's like Dumb and Dumber. What's the annoying sound in the world? And the most annoying sound in the world.
Yeah.
And so it's always TV on, fan on, music on, talking. Somebody talk.
Yeah, yeah, there's got to be something in the background. We sleep with a fan on because
Yeah.
Kate's actually got it really bad too, so she needs something going on to kind of just get her in a good space where
We
she can.
finally got away from the TV being on, which we had done for a long time, and we've gotten away from it for a while now, actually, too. It's been a few years, but that took a long time to do it.
Does that
Uh,
help?
I think so. Now, I found a good noisemaker that has like ocean sounds. I love ocean sounds. Julie likes the ocean sounds. So it just sounds like waves hitting the beach, and it's
Cool.
all night long, rhythmic, soft, soothing, and it disrupts that complete silence, which is what I want, and it helps with Julie a little bit too. And I guess I mean she hasn't said that much about it. I guess I'm just thinking about me right now. But
That
and then
that's
you don't have
that's
the TV lights on. The TV lights while you're sleeping, even when your eyes closed, are bad for your eyes. What they say. So that's why we got away. We try to get away from the TV.
it's so funny because that you bring that up because I've really considered that because my dreams at night, would be so bad, right? But I feel like sometimes I'm like in an effort to stay focused on something else, as I go to sleep or as I'm sleeping, I'll have the TV on in the background and I'll almost be like listening and kind of like living through it
Yeah.
as I'm falling asleep so that I don't have to deal with what's going on here. But I'm pretty sure that while I'm sleeping, now my dreams are being influenced by whatever energy I'm hearing in the background, whether it
And
be
that makes total
action.
sense.
Yeah.
I
And
bet
so
you it's true.
and so it's like you gotta choose a side because I have slept in the last couple of years without the TV on, and it was almost odd. It was harder to fall asleep, but it was odd waking up and being I could almost sense like a calmer or a cooler. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't
Okay.
waking up like "Rah!" and like running down to get my cup of coffee to kind of like run from whatever I just came out of. It was just more like a here we are. And
Nice.
it's so silly that
It's so
I
much
don't
more
do it.
peaceful and
Yeah.
yeah, there's I haven't tried any of them, but I've been interested in trying them. You see them on the ads on them, and it's like a green light and a green noise or something like that, and
Oh yeah.
it'll shoot the green light around in the room a little bit, but then it has this like green noise, and the little test part of it, if that's the noise, it's I mean I just I'm in awe in the commercial going this I think this will work.
Oh,
I think this will
I
work.
know what you're talking about. It's like
So
take
yeah, I don't
take
know. It just totally like took all my thoughts away, and it didn't really make me sleepy. It just made me feel peaceful.
right.
And I just like, I mean, I'm not looking at anything specific. And but what's probably even better is I'm not looking at the lights off the TV or the phone or computer screens and stuff like that too. That's bad for your eyes. But
Yeah.
well, overly exposed can be
Back
bad.
to the elevator and the heights thing. Again, I just think that's like an interesting thing to point out that both of us later in life had this sense of fear show up out of nowhere that we didn't even really recognize. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's like, what the heck is going on right now?
It, I wonder if
I
it
used
could
to
also,
jump on elevators. You know what I'm talking
yeah,
about? Be like, huh? Ka-doom, ka-doom,
yeah.
ka-doom, and just like,
Imagine if it falls, you got to jump at the end right before it hits to save yourself.
exactly. So it's funny that, you go from this era of like that
Yeah.
fear isn't even there.
I
And then
used to
all of a sudden,
rappel down buildings and mountains and stuff and different training
yeah.
scenarios. I mean, all kinds of rappelling and
So it's funny. What ended up happening is I was so upset by it because Kate kept telling people, "Oh, Cameron's afraid of heights," and I'd be like, "No, I'm not. This is just like this is
I'm not
happening
afraid.
because she was like shocked too. I think that it had like come out of nowhere. I
Yeah.
had been in situations with her where I'm like pressed on the glass and it doesn't matter and all this kinds of stuff. So I had had enough of it
And we were actually uh, blessed. I don't know how many Christmases ago, but we were able to take our whole family. So Kate and I, my sister and her husband, and my mom and dad. And my mom and dad are both from the UK. I was born in the UK. And so we went to London for Christmas, and it was really neat. And instead of doing Christmas stuff, Kate asked me, and I think the topic had come up on the way over, with like the plane. I think I was being asked, like, are you okay? I'm like, I'm fine. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? But I did, like, and Kate asked me one morning, she's like, what are we going to do today? You know, I think my sister Robin was doing something with her husband, Matthias, and my mom and dad were kind of hanging out. And she's
Well,
like,
that's
what
a
are we
name.
doing?
That's quite the
Matthias?
name. Yeah, that's a name.
It's a proper name. It is a
Yeah,
good
that's a
name,
good name.
strong name. So they're doing their own thing. And Kate asked me, what do you want to do today? And I looked up the tallest building in London, and it's called the Shard. And it looks like it just glasses, like glass, and at the top it's rigid, like the glass is broken, like a shard of glass. And the
Yeah.
roof is exposed. Uh, and
Oof.
it's kind of like a Empire State Building sort of deal. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's where we're going today.
Is it tall
And
enough to feel it rock a little bit with the wind too?
oh yeah, it was
Uh,
super tall
I'm feeling anxiety right now just thinking about
and
it.
I would too. I would too. But listen to me.
All
Like
right, you
even
got
thinking
something. I
about it,
like it. I like
going up there, like I went up there and I had to stand in the middle because you come up and it's like almost like a turf area, like you're standing on, and all the walls are glass and there's no like railing. So I was like, oh,
it.
really scared. You know what I mean? But with Kate there, like going, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm fine." You know what I mean? And by and so I got like closer and closer to the edge. I was basically like I felt like I was crawling up to the edge because I didn't trust my legs even. Like that's
Yeah.
how much the fear was hitting me. Like, my legs were going out, but I like
Mm.
got to the point where like I am not leaving here, you know, I don't know what I was doing. I was like, this just sucks. I'm facing it. And so I was able to get up to the glass. I literally think I walked up to the glass with Kate holding my hand. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, I'm a former police officer injured in the line of duty, and now I can't stand next to this glass wall. And she's holding my hand, and we start taking pictures. And so we started acting more silly. And so now I'm like able to kind of like test out a little of a jump. And the and the building didn't fall. I was feeling exactly how you're feeling. And by the end of it, I was able to really scarily, and especially since you can feel the breeze and all that kind of stuff, like go all the way to the top, press my face on it, lean into the glass, and like I didn't die. But then the funny thing is like now we're going. So we kind of like I'm almost like working my way to the elevator. I'm like, but I got to go pee really quick. And she's like, all right. So I run to go to the restroom, and it turns out the restroom stalls are actually on the glass. So you're looking out floor to ceiling glass while you're using the restroom in the stall. And I was able, and something, this is probably oversharing, but something happened to me after I got shot. I suddenly had a lot of trouble peeing. Like the anxiety was so high. Lots of times I needed to pee, but I couldn't. You know what I mean? I was just
In
like
public.
that in public, at home,
Okay.
anything. Even now, if I get super worked up, it's like hard to pee. It happened after I got shot. I don't know what that is. If anyone out there knows what that is, like it's getting better. But I bring it up only because I was able to pee standing next to the glass on top of the Shard in London. And since then, my fear of heights has steadily declined.
Yeah.
And it was like, I told that to my therapist, and she goes, that's called exposure therapy. That's
Okay.
literally facing the thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then you realize you don't die. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I had to I almost had to like reset it. And now I'm okay. Now I'm not going to get on my roof. I've never been on my roof. It's a 2-story house. I don't want to go up there on the 20-foot ladder. And then, any other house I've had, I think usually I'm working on like the first floor, and you have this idea that you could survive that drop, or you could grab something on the way down. Even the gutter, if you were falling, you could just like grab it and tear it down, something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I know you're feeling like where it's like especially if you're working towards the gutter and the roof slope, is behind you, and it almost feels like you're gonna topple over.
Yeah.
Is that the feeling you get when
Yeah,
you're
like
up
I
there? You're
said,
like,
they walk the roof line. I've seen even one of our former coworkers that does yard work has done my yard before several years ago,
yeah,
and he walked the same thing, just walked the gutter line on the roof, blowing it out with the thing. And I'm just thinking the whole time, like I would be so worried I was going to trip and fall. I just wouldn't be able to get one foot in front of the other.
right.
And yeah, I've always wondered if it was related to that. But I also wonder, just as we were talking, I kind of had this flash of, Julie has a fear of going over bridges now all of a sudden that came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
Like, she doesn't, you got to slow down to go the speed limit. You can't pass a trucker. We don't talk anymore. We just kind of hold our breath and relax and just sit still while we drive over bridges. Because she just has this disabling fear that the bridge is going to collapse and the car's going to go in the water, or the brake lines are going to go out, or something's going on the steering, and the car is just going to veer off and go right into the water.
yeah,
And it's just overwhelming, and it's hard. And it kind of came out of nowhere, but as we're sitting here talking about it, it came out soon after, like, her brother passed away, and he passed away in his early 30s, late 20s, something like that. Way too young. And so she's faced with
yeah,
that mortality stuff that she hadn't really been faced with before. She's just an average civilian type person. She's not been trained in military or police type stuff or firefighter type stuff to think about death all the time like we do. And maybe just think about mortality, and all of a sudden realizing how life is pretty darn fragile makes you just kind of clinch up when you get into more of a potential life threatening kind of situation. And obviously looking down outside of a building could give
yeah.
that fear to you really easily, and the thought of going into water could give you that fear really easily. So maybe there's some relation there. I mean, I'm just totally guessing here, just throwing
Maybe
some
it's
stuff out, see if
also,
it sticks. But
yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think it's awesome.
it
It made
makes
me
it makes
think
some
that, like,
sense. I mean,
yeah, maybe we suddenly develop n not a fear of death, but a fear or an understanding and acceptance that we can't control it, and it
I
could
think that's what
happen
it
at
is.
any time.
I think it's
I
that, 'cause especially for us, the alpha male type, first responder types that you're meant to be like, I'm in control here.
right,
Uh, and then
right,
you realize you're not, because that's how life
yeah.
works. That could be something that throws you, and that could be for anybody. I mean, that's not just first responders. That could be for anybody.
Gemini says adults can develop sudden fears due to a variety of factors, including traumatic experiences. Obviously, we've been running that over.
Yeah.
Stressful life events, genetic predispositions, and
Okay.
learned behavior. Uh, the fears can manifest in phobias, panic disorders, or heightened anxiety. So, is it
That
really
fit,
just like the
that
longer we're
fits all the
here,
bills.
yeah, the longer we're here, the more we realize.
We're not going to be here
Uh,
very long.
yeah, exactly,
The longer
exactly.
the longer we're here, the more we realize we're not going to be here very long. That's almost
Right,
like the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know very much.
man. I've been this morning. I listened to the Sean Ryan show, and I kind of listen to the Sean Ryan show the same way a lot of people listen to us, which is through shorts on YouTube, right? So you
Okay.
get these quality clips and everything like that, and you and I send them to one another, and we kind of like they're like that's a great point or blah 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 blah, and we just kind of reflect on it. And I was watching the Sean Ryan show, and I forget the name of the two individuals that were on, but they were both considered atheists at one point, non-believers, and then through life experience, and for one of them specifically, interviewing people with near-death experiences.
Yeah.
That's what ended up getting him to believe. Like he couldn't deny it anymore after he kind of like dug into the book. He was trying to prove the Bible wrong. He was trying to prove
Right.
Christianity wrong. But in doing that, like a lot of people, I think Jordan Peterson kind of went through this. A lot of people go in to kind of dissect it and like almost find the underlying meaning, but then they kind of like come out of there like, oh my God, this is profound. And I guess like one dice of that would be when someone's talking about the disciples. So
Mhm.
you know, there's Jesus, and then there's his disciples, like the main people he was teaching to. Now, Jesus really easily could be like, that was just a man teaching a group of people, right? Um, but what you find out is that 11 of those disciples
Yeah, yeah,
died through terrible torture to, in a way, to get those disciples to just say the words out loud so other people could hear it. Never mind what I said wasn't true.
right.
They wanted to basically torture that out of them so they would almost spontaneously say, what I've been saying is wrong. Please just give me the sword. Let it end. All this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
None of them did. And I love you, Dennis, and I know you love me, but if you're being tortured because of something I said, I expect you to go, never mind. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like I'm gonna preserve my life and Julie, and like I'm gonna preserve my family. That's what Cameron would want me to do, and I would feel the
Right.
same
Yeah.
way. You know what I
Well, that's
mean?
our
Like
humanity coming out. Our
none of these
compassion.
guys did, and the reason being is
Because they're the
they
truth. It was
they
convicted in their truth.
yeah.
They knew that they couldn't deny it. They knew it was so real. That is an amazing story, and I like that one.
I mean
And
that's
then
just
the only
crazy.
one that survived, the 12th one that didn't die from the torture, actually survived all the torture. And then they
Yeah,
finally just sent him off into like a prison island, where he wrote Revelations,
yeah.
and then died of natural causes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's funny how like this whole walk we've been going through, it's like I'm not a big Bible and religious person, but I kept finding little nuggets of truth all over the place and like humbling nuggets of truth if I were to accept it. You know what I mean? Just like, for a long time, ego was in my way, and then just the acceptance that
Ego's
God
always
made.
going to come back. Ego's always going to be a problem. You get it through your head. Once you become a Christian, you're not perfect.
No, I know, and that's like
And
the
that's what everybody else needs to realize too. We're not professing perfection. We're just professing that we know somebody that did it, and we kind of
yeah,
believe that they're the real thing, and we kind of just want to follow that. We're not telling
and
you you have to. we're
yeah.
just we're just saying like this worked for
And
us.
so for a long time, I was looking for people who were doing the same thing as me, as chipping away at the book, chipping away at like, whatever's been said and how man is saying it and God's not saying it to us and, all this kind of stuff, poking holes in religion, finding all these like different things just to prove it wrong. You know what I mean? Because in a way, for a long time, now that I reflect on it in hindsight's 2020 is I felt like I was not worthy. So
Mhm.
I almost wanted to discredit the thing and not want to be part of it. Be like, oh, I'm not part of it on my choice because it's not actually fair. It's not actually right. It's not real. It's not this. It's not. And you kind of like tried to tear it apart. Um, but the thing that I kept falling back into was my near death experience. Like,
Mhm.
what the hell was that? Because like my whole thing on a daily basis, I hate to say it, but like I want to get away from the pain and and mentally, spiritually, physically, whatever it is. Like that's my constant. Like I'm always just trying to stay up in a way. You know what I mean? Like
Well, if those
when
12 people can stay positive with the truth through immense torture, you can stay positive with your truth through your immense torture. You know?
well, that's what I mean. Like these guys died saying it. Meanwhile, I was shown the other side and I came back like angry. And so what I had to do, and I'm sure everyone going on their own path, like what would you do in that situation? You'd probably start looking up other near death experiences and
Yeah.
seeing if they paralleled kind
Sure.
of like what you experienced, right? And one of the gentlemen on the Sean Ryan show, that's what he did. He continuously interviewed people who had near death experiences and not just Christians. Like people, he was talking about a Hindu on the show. He was talking about just all these kinds of people who had denied. And what's crazy is that my near death experience parallels some of theirs.
Yeah.
And And then I heard that the three people who had those near death experiences that he had interviewed had come back and become uh, pastors, like people
Wow.
who would never have thought to be pastors became pastors. But also, there was one of the examples was a kid whose father was a pastor for 40 years. And he found himself, you know, abusing alcohol. It started his day, it ended its day, all this kinds of stuff. This guy ended up in the hospital, and while he was in the hospital, kind of like me, went into alcohol withdrawal. But when he went into alcohol withdrawal, and it's really funny with near death experiences because you don't necessarily have to flatline. Like you don't actually have to be dead on the table to have a near death experience. And that's something I had to kind of like process too. Like, did I die? Like, and so I had to talk to my surrounding people because I wasn't present. Like, did I ever flatline? What
Yeah.
happened here? And then I got really worried about like, was I being influenced by the drugs or the narcotics or whatever they were giving me? Also, my PTSD dreams, like, are dreams on a whole nother level that I didn't even know were possible. So I was worried, especially being in that coma. I know I was having PTSD dreams the whole time. So I was literally like it felt like I was in hell, right? But at a certain point, um, when I was going through this, I haven't even shared like the whole story on here. It's so like crazy and
Like the
there's
level of
a
dreams and stuff.
the actual near death experience. Because
Okay.
for me, it's hard. I'm going through all these fucking crazy dreams, crazy dreams. I just want to die. I just want to die. I'm literally strapped down. I've got a ventilator going down me. It's breathing for me. I just want to die. I can hear people in the room because at one point they had to remove my family from the room because anytime they'd be in there, my vitals would go up. My heart rate would increase, whatever, because it's basically I could hear them. And I remember being in a coma, being like, just end it or like get me out of this. You know what I mean? I felt like I was being like tortured,
Yeah.
and I'm sure they were doing the best thing they possibly can. You don't know what's going on in the patient's head. We only know what we know on earth, but I tell you what, a lot of these near death experiences happens like in these moments, right? And time works different on the other side. So you also don't know because you try to allot like the time. Like if I had a near death experience and it felt like 15 minutes, when did that happen? Like, did I die for 15 minutes? Like, how does
Yeah.
that equation work? And the truth is, we don't know. You know what I mean? So I kept like listening to near death experiences and all this kinds of stuff. And the one thing so here's how it really went for me, because a lot of them I'm hearing actually they're not near death heaven experiences, they're near death hell experiences.
Yeah.
And this
Dragging
is
into dark holes by demons and
exactly.
things. I've heard of those too.
And so I was having all these like PTSD dreams and everything like that. And I remember whether it be part of a dream or the opening to my near death or something like that. There were like two beings that kind of like came to me. I don't know if they're in the hospital room or if they're in my dream and like I was dreaming kind of deal. So it's really mucky. But if anyone can help me with this would be absolutely amazing because I really try to figure this out. I can't forget it, so it's really weird. But so this is how it happened. They're like, we can get you out of here. So I said, awesome. I went with them. And as we went, they seemed nice. They seemed kind. It felt like there was a male and a female. They were dressed in black. And so we're like going down. They're like, oh, keep going. Like, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. Here we go. I got you. I got you. I got you. But it kept getting darker and darker and darker and darker. And couldn't see around me anymore. They're like, no, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Come on, we got you. We're going to get out of here. And then I started feeling things or hearing things like around me in the darkness. And they're like, no, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. And then I heard laughing in the darkness. And they're like, no, it's fine. And then I actually felt things grabbing me and scraping me. And before I knew it, the people who were telling me it was fine were now laughing at me, and I was being attacked from all around. They were laughing as they were attacking me. It got so brutal at one point, and I'm just going to say this, that I was being sexually assaulted, and it wasn't ending. And at some point, I just gave up kind of in my head, and then suddenly that part ended. And I was in another place, and it was like I was coming out of the darkness, and it looked like almost like a huge cave filled up by like fiery light. And I was walking towards it, and there were people trying to get to almost like this structure, which was a big triangle that was made out of triangle chambers, like a pyramid, but it was made
Okay.
out of like triangles stacked on one another. And the deal was, if we wanted freedom, what we had to do is make it through these chambers, and the person who gets to the top would win. But the way it works is you go in these triangles at the bottom, and you're faced off one on one in different chambers, but you have to hold your breath longer than the other person, and the other person dies, which means you get to go to the next chamber.
Oh wow.
So
And then you
I
become
was
Batman.
so I was debating whether I was going to do it, right? So I'm like, I'm going to do, well, really, I was like, I'm going to do this. But I noticed three religious figures standing on the side of the line, choosing not to participate. And it was a, a black male wearing purple. I believe there was a white priest wearing white and black. And then I believe there was uh, someone of Jewish faith. I don't know for sure, but without saying anything to them, I was like, "Why aren't you participating? This is the way out." And they didn't say one word. And so I got in the bottom chamber. I was a swimmer my whole life, so I can hold my breath, or at least like I thought I could. I'm sure it doesn't really work and all this kind of stuff, but that was like my belief. I can get out of here. So got through the first one, got through the second one, got through the third one, and then when I got to the very top, I was faced off against this woman with dark hair, brown eyes, and we're in the last two triangles that would get you to the final triangle at the top. And right in that moment, it came over me. I was like, I can't kill this woman. I can't kill this woman for my own freedom. It's not okay. And then this sudden thought of like, and rush of just like, I am a sinner. Like it just came over me. I was just like, I am doing the wrong thing. I'm literally trying to earn my, like, make my way out to
Yeah.
freedom by hurting other people. And it clicked to me that like I had almost been caught in like a lie in a game. And then I, I so I gave up. I accepted I was dying, and I died like I drowned. And after I drowned, which is not a great way to die, I was falling into darkness. And as I was falling into this darkness, I yelled out, and I knew I was going to hell, or wherever I was going. I knew I was going to this place of pain. I knew I had no hope. I knew I was wrong, and I knew I deserved it. And I said, Jesus, please forgive me. And everyone else kind of knows the story from there.
I
Like,
was gonna say that's like that was the part that
when,
you had left out before it was just like all
yeah,
darkness. I was always
yeah.
wondering if you had more to explain about that. You had more to talk about that one.
It, it's it's so hard to tell the whole story all at once because there's so many sections of it to like kind of like dice up and try to understand
Well, how long
that.
were you in a coma? How long were you in your coma?
I
Like
was in a coma for 5 weeks.
5 weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're trying, 30 minutes to try to explain 5 weeks of coma dreams and realities or near death experience, however you want to code it or word it or verbalize it.
Yeah.
That's a
There,
long time. It's a lot
there,
of
there,
information.
there
Of course, it's
was a
hard to put it all
point.
together.
There was a point because again, I had to like seek where did this happen? You know what I mean? Am it's so confusing because you're like on these drugs and everything like that. Like, when did this happen in this 5 week period? And this
Yeah.
probably makes no sense now that I'm saying it. And so what I chalked it up to was like, when was I the sickest? And they're like, well, you had double pneumonia, your right lung collapsed, you were on a ventilator, no one was allowed in your room, and you had a nurse assigned to you 24/7. So like I had to be like, okay, maybe that's sick enough to have a near death experience, while everyone else is
Well,
like, you were like dying on the table, like for real. Like you never flatlined, but you were there. And so I it's
yeah,
just
but also
funny.
like when does your soul leave your body when you're getting near
Right.
death? Does it leave after your heart stops, or does it leave before your heart stops? Does it
That's
leave
what I'm
after you
saying.
have brain
So
activity? Does it leave before you have brain activity? Yeah, there's no way to really know that one for sure.
and I'm
They
an
do.
investigator. I'm an investigator. So
You
I
want to know?
actually
Oh, there was that
I
one thing about how the body weighs a little bit lighter after death, and they say that that's the weight of the soul.
didn't know that.
There, yeah,
That's
there's
interesting.
yeah, that's the whole thing. I don't want to say like I don't want to try to cite numbers or anything like that and be way off. I just remember reading something about it or watching something about it a while back that yeah, a doctor decided to start weighing patients like the day before they died and then the day after they died, and they were always consistently like a certain weight less, and he concluded that that was the weight of the soul, and it was something I don't know. I feel like it was an absurd number,
So
like a half of a pound or something weird, but it was a consistent one. Whatever the number was,
yeah.
it was consistent, and that's what made it seem like odd or believable or possible or however you want to verbalize that.
Yeah. That's super interesting.
Yeah, just something to
Anyways,
look at. I didn't mean to interrupt you too
no, no,
much,
no. Kind of went off on that tangent. It's just
but you
like
needed to.
it, it
You needed to share that.
yeah.
'Cause
And it took
that's
me. All right, so that's a great segue. It took me 20 episodes to get there.
yeah.
I have given this. I have it's and so that means it's taken me over 10 years to get here. Actually, no, because I got shot 10 years ago. The near death experience happened 9 years ago. So on the well, I went into the hospital on the anniversary. I don't know when the near death happened on.
Some between there and 5 weeks later.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
And it could have
And
been a
then it's just
combination of a couple different moments. I mean, like you feel like you were drowning when you gave up and drowned because you felt like you couldn't make that let that other soul die in the drowning, and then your lung collapsed because of pneumonia. I mean, I feel like there's some sort of connection to that too. Probably your body,
me
what your
too.
body felt, your mind was thinking about, and correlated it into your dream if it was, or even your near death experience if that's where it started.
Yeah.
Um, again, I know these are the questions you're asking. When does that start? When does it not start? And those are great questions. I'm just kind of saying it again to make sure I understand it and make sure I'm
Yeah.
reverbalizing it so other people who maybe understand it or understand what you're saying.
So
Uh,
so
but that's it.
so what I
Where does
needed to
it
hear.
cross over? When does it go?
Yeah.
Because some of those things. What I wanted to say also real quick. Sorry, I just
Uh,
got to throw it out real quick. Some of the thing also could be shit. Um, everything that's happened to you in your life. Like if you've ever felt like taken advantage of or bullied or
mhm.
laughed at even as a kid, you had that in that moment of all of your so like all of
Yeah.
the either all the bad things you have done that you know were bad that you shouldn't have done, that you felt guilty about, anything that happened to you that made you feel like a victim or innocent or weak or not as strong as you used to be, like the sexual assaults were in your dreams and you had something like that as a kid. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like I feel like those correlations happen, but maybe that's also exactly when you're supposed to atone for those things, just like you did. Maybe that's
Yeah.
exactly how it's supposed to work for the faith-driven parts. I don't
Yeah.
know. Okay, lots of content there to dissect, and
And so
we don't have the time or the intellect to really get into it, do we?
well, that's
Some
what
anyway.
happens is I got so bogged down in the details. I got so
Yeah.
bogged down in the details. And then recently I heard another near death experience again from that gentleman who's on the Sean Ryan show. And he was talking about a Hindu gentleman
Okay.
who, if I can remember it correctly, the Hindu gentleman obviously wasn't Christian. Um, I think he did well in life.
Yeah. So, are his dreams more about things that happened in his life, or in his religious belief? Were there more
Well,
something
no,
something
he
cow
ended up
themed, or I guess would be a very general Hindu
well.
statement to put in there, but
Well, he also, I think, he had a medical emergency, and somewhere in that medical emergency, a couple of beings came to him and said, "Hey, follow us. Everything's going to be okay."
There you go.
They took him into the darkness and soon changed on him. Again, this parallels the two other stories. Like
Right.
one of the pastor's kids said, like a woman was leading him who looked more beautiful than he had ever seen a woman. But when she turned, the other half of her face was all death and like face was like melting kind of deal.
Wow.
And so they get taken into these like dark areas. And but what was interesting about the Hindu story is he like got taken down into like a couple like levels, and but then he got taken onto a mount where he could see a city that had 12 gates, I think. And again, I'm just doing his story, but it turns out it like parallels, I think, John's story of when he goes to hell because he gets taken up onto a mount, right? And what the Hindu gentleman said, which later reflects what John said, is he saw a city that was thousands of miles wide, fully square, thousands of miles deep, fully surrounded, 12 gates, and each gate was guarded by angels. So they didn't let anybody in. And as he's looking, he's like, that's where I need to go because he suddenly realized that's where everyone's soul, regardless of religion, yearns to be. Yearns to be. Like that's where they're meant to be. And
Yeah.
he's standing there and he realizes, oh my gosh, like I haven't been doing the right things. I haven't even, following. I don't know what this is, but whatever I've been doing isn't meant for this, doesn't get me here. I need to figure out what's going on. And in that moment, he looks over to the right and he sees a man and he's sitting on a throne. And behind him is a narrow doorway or a gate. And because you're not talking. And, but like, he asked the man, like, how is it I get into there? And then when the man looks up, and now he realizes in reflection that he believes this is the reincarnated Christ sitting on the throne, because when he looked at him, his eyes were like with lightning.
Okay.
And that's like the quote that when he rose again, it's funny, we're right around Easter. Uh, when he rose again, he was seen with eyes like lightning or something like
Okay.
that. So it like paralleled it. And then he was asking the gentleman, how do I get in that gate behind you that gets to the city? And then he came out of his near death experience, pondered it for 2 years, didn't know what the heck was going on. His daughter, 2 years later, who I believe was a performer, maybe a singer, maybe a musician in some capacity, was performing at a church. And during it, the uh, the passages of the day or whatever it was is in Matthew where it says like the gate is narrow or the only way through
Okay.
to heaven is through me. And that's basically the message that was said that day. And the way is narrow. So in 2 years later, it was revealed to him that the person he saw was Jesus,
Yeah.
and that the way to heaven, the city that he wanted to get to, is through Jesus, and that the gate that Jesus provides is narrow. That was behind him. And then he spent the rest of his life being like, I need to get through that narrow gate.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And
Well, because
yeah,
I was also thinking when you were explaining the triangles and the
mm,
triangles within the triangles as part of your test, you said you saw three figures. You're like, what are you guys doing over here? This is the way out.
yeah,
And I automatically thought of the verses of like, no, no, Jesus is the way. That's your, is that like purgatory? That's your test. And you're like, this is the way out. I got to try to do the man-made things by holding my breath and out swimming people. When really it was to go over this direction and accept Jesus. And that was your actual way through or something. I don't know. It was
I,
just, that was
I've
the
thought that.
little kind of thought thing that kind of popped in my head when you were explaining it. But
I've thought that in retrospect that they chose not to participate. They
yeah,
chose the hard road. They accepted death and said, I will not hurt somebody
yeah.
to save myself. Like, that's not
Okay.
the way I work. That's not the way my faith works. That's not the way Jesus works. I will stand firm here, although everything's going to collapse on me. And reminded me. And again, we're not like this is so weird. We're having these conversations. We're just doing it out
Yeah.
loud so people can hear it. And it's just so it everything's just crazy. When you start to believe in a little bit of magic,
Yeah.
anything is possible, you
Yeah.
know? And we've limited ourselves so much to like the only things that are real are the things we can pick up, you know?
Right.
And
And really it
it's
needs to be
just
the opposite way, right?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
so limiting.
I've also had this thought before a long time ago that I know I shared that one parable about the long chopsticks for the difference between heaven and hell, but another heaven and hell would be basically it's the same place. It's like I don't know how to explain it. Let's say like the nature shows, the surviving in the nature shows, like a Bear Grylls or the
Yeah,
first Alaskans or something like that, where you're living off the grid. You don't have running water, you don't have running electricity. Everything's like burning something for heat or for light. All those little tricks of the trade or whatever to live off the grid. It'll be
right.
heaven for somebody who knows how to do it. But
Uh,
if you only lived in the city and never knew how to do any of these things, how to start a fire or nothing, that situation is going to feel like hell.
yeah,
So, you know what I'm saying? Like, what if that's what it is? It's going to be whatever you make. It's going to be exactly the same for you and for me. It's just going to feel like heaven for one of us and hell for the others because we're more prepared for it or something. I don't know.
yeah,
And there might be some truth to that, actually, but I don't know all the answers. I guess
right.
I gotta look in the good book to try to figure some of those out, or
Yeah.
figure it out when I get my near death experience or my actual
And
death
it's weird.
experience.
And it's weird. I'm almost like reading. I've always said I want to read the Bible. I should read the Bible and all that kind of stuff. And then I just get, I don't know. I either get lazy or figure out reasons not to do it, or the devil's whispering in my ear. It's a waste
All
of
the
time, or
above, all the
you
above.
already know it, or you've heard enough of it, or all this kinds of stuff. But I've noticed, like, I work for a not for profit, and I'm out on golf courses talking to people about veterans and first responders with PTSD, and how our organization helps them with reacclimation and food, shelter, and trauma counseling and all that kind of stuff. Um, and out on the golf course, I was just trying to give you some context of where I am when I'm doing this. And there'll be like gaps in time where golfers aren't there, and I've just started opening like the Bible, and I'm trying to just. I've been watching The Chosen. Are you familiar with that show?
I think I've seen a commercial for it.
Yeah, it's
I
pretty
haven't been
cool.
watching it though.
It's about Jesus and the disciples, and what's
Okay.
different about how they did it is they got all their funding through their own means instead of going to a studio and then the studio having control over kind of the content and the way it's going to be written or the way it's going to be
Okay.
shown to people. You know what I mean? They wanted it to be very true to what was written, and so I highly encourage anyone out there. It's actually, you watch it through an app. It's The Chosen app. So you're not going to find it. I think you can find bits and pieces maybe on Prime Now or something like that. But if you actually go to The Chosen app, you can put it on your phone, on your TV, whatever it is, or on your Fire Stick or whatever you use. And you can actually watch the episodes. You can donate, but I do believe it's free. And it's such an interesting show
Hmm.
because it really kind of shows that walk of the disciples. And so I've started reading because basically the show is a reflection of the books written by each of the disciples.
Right.
It's kind of trying to show the historical events that led up to the resurrection and all that kind of stuff from the very beginning, where they're just fishermen. The disciples are just
Mhm.
fishermen and they're not catching anything. They're about to lose their whole household and all that kind of stuff, and Jesus basically shows up and says, cast it again, that sort of deal. And again, I only know the basis of the story, so I'm trying to get more in there and like read it. And have you ever someone I didn't understand for a long time when people would say read the red print
That's
in
when
the
Jesus
Bible.
is talking.
Yeah, I didn't really understand that. So the
Yeah.
red print in the Bible is when Jesus is talking, and they put it in red
And
in
and
each of
that's
the
in the which is that's not in the NIT. I don't think that's in the what's the
NIV, or let me see what I
yeah.
have. I think it's
It's not
NIV.
in all of them. It's not in all of them.
Yeah, it's
Some
NIV.
prints are all just they don't have the separate when Jesus is talking to be read. But I know I've known that before too because I've seen that. But I've seen that kind of Bible before too, where it had that where the red was where Jesus talked. That's why I knew that. But I don't remember. I don't even remember the versions anymore. I know there's the NIV and the New International Version. But then
Yeah,
what was it before that? Old Roman or something.
Romans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Old Roman Empire or something like that. That's the one that would probably be in the red.
So what's the difference then? So NIV is like the attempt at trying to translate more accurately compared to
Yeah,
like
it's I don't know exactly
I
how
don't
they do
either.
it, but
So
that's exact. I mean, that's what it's supposed to be. Uh,
yeah,
uh, Different interpretations to try to be more understandable or relatable to how dialect is now compared to how dialect used to be. I mean, it hasn't gone so far to be like that's totally rad, dude. But I mean,
right.
dating myself there, huh? Um,
No, it's interesting. And the fact that we're getting into it
so is it
is,
is it is it about time to make even a newer international version?
well, I don't know. I mean, I guess the goal would
Jesus
be
was
to
this totally rad dude that came down to save everybody, and
No,
he
that's
said like the only way to really take the paradise is just to like follow me, bro. Come on, let's go.
the weirdest things have been happening to me. All right. So like I'm on the golf course and this guy walks up to me who's a ranger and he's like, "Hey, in your experience, did you ever run into Jesus or anything like that?" And he was telling me about a couple different things. He wants me to read a book called The Cross and the Switchblades, which is, I guess, a book about a preacher in California who was trying to help a community. I think it was Hispanic and possibly like gangs within the area. And he walked up to a main guy and said, "Hey, you need Jesus." And the main gang leader punched him right in the face and said, "You might like Jesus. I need someone who understands me." And I guess it was that New Age Bible in the 70s, like, come on, Jesus is love, like that whole, like that train. And he said, go to Hebrews 4:14. And that's what he used to say to them. Look at it. I can't. 4:14. I don't even know how to look this up. I'm just putting it on the bar. Hebrews 4:14.
Yeah, so here would be a good example. When you're looking this verse up, look it up in the NIV, look it up in the Old Romans one version, or whatever different versions you can look it up and see how it's written just a little bit differently, but all saying basically the same thing. And just try to take some of the bigger words out with the newer versions.
Yeah. Therefore, since we have a great high priest who has ascended into heaven, Jesus, the Son of God, let us hold him firmly to the faith we profess. Okay, well, I don't understand that. What the guy was saying to me was that somewhere in Hebrews 4:14, it is basically what that priest said to the gang leader was that Jesus, as a man, didn't just not succumb to the temptations of the wilderness, but on a daily basis, he was tempted by every single thing that we're tempted by on a daily basis.
Hmm.
He was just the only person to be able to not succumb to them. So that was really interesting because he was saying to this gang leader, does this sound like you? Like, does this sound like someone who's
Yeah, relate with.
rolling who's
Yeah.
that you can relate with? Yeah,
Yeah.
someone who's on a daily basis struggling, doesn't know what to do, all this kinds of stuff. As a man, Jesus had to walk through that too. And again, I don't know a whole lot about the Bible. I tried to look it up and everything like that, but just that quote when that guy said that to me came up out of nowhere, said it to me. I'm like, wow, right or wrong, why is this happening? Like this guy
Yeah.
just walked up and just put that in my ear, and now I'm sitting there pondering, okay, well, Jesus did go through this. It's not that he went out into the wilderness and fought the devil and won. Of course he did. He's God. But, it's him as a man on a daily basis deciding I'm going to keep going. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And re- re- I'm going to live the way I'm asking people to attempt to.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
He had
I
to
thought
prove
that
that
was
he had to prove that it could be done, even though he knew that none of us could do it.
exactly. But to aspire, to try to aspire to it.
Yeah.
And then just like it's just a weird thing. We've talked about it before, but
You
once
should.
you
What
put
did it tell you? What version you looked that verse up on? There, did it say?
uh English translations, New International Version, I could change it. There's the New Catholic Bible, New Century Version, New English Translation, New International Reader's Version, New International Version, New International Version UK,
Wow.
New
See,
King
I told you so
James.
many different.
Yeah,
King James. King James is another version. I think that would have the red printing for when Jesus talks.
got it. Okay. So
Maybe
that's
something
so
like
for
that.
so for me beginning like that seems like I can handle that. Like I can handle I don't think I can handle the whole beginning of the whole Old Testament straight out of the gates. Like I'm just getting into it. So what I'm trying to do is like focus on what's right in front of me and what saved me.
Yeah.
Jesus, when I called out, it saved me.
Then
So now I
focus
gotta
on the
like,
New Testament because that's all the different books of the 12 disciples and their stories. The same time frame, so you get to read like one person's perspective and another person's perspective right after that, going through the exact same things, the exact same time frames, just how they see it a little bit differently.
yeah, just
And
like you talk about a lot, like the different angles. So there,
yeah,
it's interesting how like they see different angles, but the core of the stories are all the same. Do
yes, yeah,
you know what I mean? So that's
yeah.
like a really
The
interesting
truth is
thing
still in the
that
middle. It's just there's just different ways to look at it, and it's all still the
exactly.
truth. It's just different perspectives.
And what a good way to do it, because if you just had one person telling you, "Oh, this is how it went," you'd be like, "Ah." But if then you get three witnesses, and you're like, well, "There's something." Now you got 12, so you've got
Yeah.
12 angles at the same story. They all reflect the main core value, but all of their visions are different, not only from the angle that they're seeing them, like my body or your body, but it's with my beliefs prior to coming
Hmm.
into this, with my life prior, with my experiences prior.
Your
All these
understanding
men were,
prior.
yeah, and yeah, all these people were different. And it again, I encourage you to watch The Chosen because it shows they did a good job of showing how they were not alike, how they did not actually understand why the other person was part of the group. You know what I mean? You
Yes.
like, and again, I'm not gonna. I encourage anyone out there to kind of just take a peek at the different angles and the different stories that are kind of like looking at them. That's what I'm starting to do. I don't know how it's going to go, but I will update you. And it's just really
You'll find a
interesting.
couple angles that you relate with a little bit more than others, and that's probably kind of the point.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And
Yeah.
I mean, what a great way to do it because otherwise it's right or wrong. But if you look at it from different
Yeah.
angles, you're like, oh, okay.
What's that? What's that? There was a guy that talked about the Bible on a thing going around. Like it's popped up a few times. I need to like try to memorize it better so I can do it justice. But he's like, it's not just a book. It's a book of 66 books written by like 16 different authors and spanning over like so many decades or hundreds of years or
Yeah,
thousands of
hundreds of
years,
years.
and uh, um, uh, the cross relations between all of them are perfect. Like if you were all the cross references and put it like on a computer program and showing them all, it would make like this perfect design of how it's all put together. It's just really put together like a man didn't do this.
Right. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
It's very very layered. It's very very structured. It's very very. I mean, it's a supreme design. I mean, somebody designed it really really intelligently, and you're trying to tell me they just happened to fall together that way without some purpose behind it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny, I heard someone say recently, it was like, whether you subscribe to God creating the world or you subscribe to the Big Bang, both require at the very beginning just a little bit of magic.
Yeah,
The
or a little bit of belief, a
yeah,
little bit of
because
hope, a little bit
even
of faith.
the Big Bang can't explain why it happened.
Right.
It's the idea that it did happen, and this is what resulted in the
But
wake of it.
but why are so many people so dead set on trying to say it's one or the other? Why can't it both be both?
I
Why
don't
can't
know.
it be like a Big Bang that was designed by God? That was him speaking into existence.
Because it's easier to understand if you can discount it. That's what I think it is.
Yeah, probably.
It's
They try
easier
to keep it
to
separate so they can try to explain it without God, just so they can try to explain it the best they can as a man
yeah.
with what man knows. That makes sense, I guess. But yeah, I think it's probably both. I think a lot of things that we can't explain with science is explained by God. A lot of things we can't explain by God can be explained by science. And like God is science. God invented science. I mean, so how could you like just how is he out of science? I mean, I don't get it.
Right.
But
But it's really funny, like these
yeah, that makes a
doctors
point. That makes a point.
at the very beginning, they will tell you you're wrong, 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 except if you take them all the way to the beginning and say, all right, tell me what happened with the Big Bang. They don't know. It requires a little bit of magic.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
and so
yeah, I
they're
remember
like,
I remember learning in probably anatomy and physiology in high school when I was going for respiratory therapy school. Somebody was talking about there's actually like there's a God gene, or God cell that they can
yeah.
actually separate, and it will disappear and reappear back on the other side of however it was buried off. And they can't explain why they can't contain it. They can't
Yeah.
explain why it keeps doing it, so they call it the God particle.
So it's whatever
Now that
science
was
can't explain.
I learned about that. I learned about that
Yeah.
like 30 years ago. So I don't know if that's been expanded on. It may have been. Maybe they found a better way to explain it. Maybe they haven't. I don't know. But I remember hearing that before, and that just helped. I don't know. I feel like a part of that kind of helped me with my faith deep down inside. And that, like I said, that was 30 or 40 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. And
It's an
it's
amazing place that we live in. It really is. If you really break it down, I mean, more so than just seeing a beautiful sunset or a beautiful sunrise type of thing. It's just very, very unique, complex, beautiful,
yeah.
brilliantly put together. If you really start breaking everything down, how our bodies work, how the earth works, how nature works, how seasons work, how everything, comes together just perfectly balanced. It's like, what did Sheldon say to his mom and the little Sheldon? He's like, Mom, did you stop believing in God? And she's like, oh, don't worry about it, honey. Then all of a sudden he goes, do you know that if the gravity was a slightly stronger, then everything would collapse on itself? And if gravity wasn't just as strong as it is, we'd all fly apart. And she's like, what are you getting at? He's like, well, it just seems to me that gravity is exactly what it's supposed to be, perfectly put together. And that just gives you the reason, that gives you at least the possibility that there is an ultimate designer. And this is the guy that doesn't really, he's an atheist, even as a kid, he's an
Right.
atheist in the show. He's like, it makes me think that maybe something really is, it's a possibility that that's something that you can't explain because out of billions of people on this earth, you were the perfect mom for me. And
Yeah.
who could have put that together? You know what I'm saying? Like, so he was, even with not believing, he was trying to get his mom to believe again because it's just kept the world balanced for him.
Yeah.
There's something
And
poetic in there. There's
absolutely.
something
And he
poetic
could
in there.
there's something being observed that can't be defined,
Yeah.
understood, categorized, anything like that. You mentioned gravity. Gravity is such a weird force because it actually, I learned recently, is separate from all other forces. Because if you take a ball and you spin it, you have centrifugal force, right? Which is going to cause anything on that ball. Say the ball is wet. If you spin it, the water is
Yeah.
going to fly off, right? And we're told that we're spinning. Not only is the earth spinning, but the earth is then spinning around, and then there's other things spinning around it, and we're kind of like moving all around and all this kind of stuff. And you think with all that force, wouldn't we be flying off?
Yeah.
So what is it that is keeping us on the earth? What is gravity? Because it can't really be explained the way that other physics can. So it actually is a separate force. And so now they're trying to figure out, well, there's either something at the center of the earth that's so dense that keeps us kind of suctioned to it. It's almost like pulling in from the middle, or it's actually it is like a after effect of an electric charge that is actually going through the earth.
Hmm.
And that ripple, that electric like ripple on the other side is actually gravity. That is a secondary thing that happens after that electrical current. And it just seems so outlandish. But at the same time, once you crack the idea to not only do we not know everything, but magic is possible because science has to actually say that with the Big Bang. It's like, well, then anything's possible. You know, we work with all these limits, but if you went and you looked at the Earth and gravity and you applied physics that we had, you wouldn't be able to understand it. It would break it. You know, it would prove it wrong. So they're like, well, never mind. Gravity's not part of this. Gravity's something else.
It
We
doesn't
don't
make
want it
sense.
to
Let's exclude
we
it.
don't want it to break our model here. It doesn't apply to our model. It must be something else. So go somewhere else and explain that.
Oh,
Don't break
I
ours.
hadn't heard any of that before, but that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
The electromagnetic type field in the ground makes a lot of sense. Is I mean, like the whole grounding thing that's kind of come back around.
And Tesla.
Yeah,
Tesla was able to pull electric from the earth, from that
yeah,
tower that he built with all those things in the ground. He knew that there was actually electric current in the ground.
yeah.
Uh,
His proposition was actually have the ground carry the electric current to all the different houses and stuff, so you wouldn't have wires and things going around everywhere. Kind of
exactly. So
interesting to think about
what
that
was
too.
that?
But what if that had messed us up? You know how like cell phone waves kind of can mess up your brain a little bit. They think possibly
Maybe.
could if you increase the electrical power to the ground to get power to your house, would that like really start messing us up if we walk barefooted out to the grass, especially if it rained?
I don't know because again, once you believe in a little bit of magic, like we
Yeah,
have an
true.
electric charge in us.
Exactly. So maybe it didn't disturb anything. Maybe it actually made us stronger. Would have made us stronger.
Maybe we all run on electric kind of deal. But yeah, Tesla was doing that. And what's interesting about that story, and again, this is what 20 episodes does. It just opens so many doors. We opened one door at the very beginning. You know what I mean? Like PTSD is freaking real. We're all struggling, and the way to do it is through resilience. Okay, well that's a pretty, you know, broad thing. So what we did is we tried to bring people in who've been through situations, including ourselves, where we didn't see a way out, but somehow we did. So that sort of opened the door to God.
Yeah.
Okay, or actually, no, it started with a higher power. My
Yeah.
chair, my chair was a higher power.
And the higher power is important enough to keep it in here, even if we do have a top where we do talk about something that isn't so much religion.
Yeah,
Having that higher power, having just some sort of sense of a gravitational pull of some reason to be here, some reason to be positive, some reason to be loving, some reason to be resilient. You have to
right.
have it to get through this. Yeah.
And now we're like talking about reading the red stuff, and these are all like so we flipped all over all the other stones, or at least I did to
Yeah, yeah.
clear them. I was like, I'm not doing the red letter stuff. Like that's for somebody else. Go do the Bible somewhere else. I'm here. Like I'm in the moment. I'm making decisions on life or death. You know, in moments in the day. You know what's going to happen and how this world might be a better place without me and all that kind of stuff. And like you're stuck in there, but if you we let a little bit of magic come in, something we couldn't explain. I almost wanted to prove it wrong, like we were talking about this
Yeah.
little God self. No, it's not me. And there's a lot of reasons we do that too. We've talked about that. That can be for self-preservation. That can be because we're ashamed. That can be because, you know, we've had terrible experiences in our lives where we've never seen God show up, you know, and in places we thought he would you know, and all that kind of stuff. And so we opened the door in the first episode, and just by following the trail of clumps that keeps getting put ahead of us, now we're suddenly talking about this. What the heck? You know what I mean? And if
Yeah.
anything, I want to thank you, Coughlin, because like through this process, I have gotten better, and I appreciate you for it, and
Oh man, awesome.
I appreciate you holding me accountable. I, the podcast wouldn't have gotten done without you. I feel like it was divine me seeing you at my dad's funeral, and suddenly you're talking about, you know, things are bad or things got bad, but I'm finding a way forward, and it appears to be through this portal that I didn't. I know it. I didn't want it to be there. I've tried everything else. I've tried the earthly stuff. I've gone out there and, you know, picked up the
Yeah.
bottle, picked up whatever. I've done all these things, all the earthly sensory pleasures, all this kinds of stuff, and I still find myself empty.
Yeah. No, you
And
hit the nail on the head there, but this is a two-way street, brother. two-way street. Thank you. You have also helped me accountable and helped get me going, staying on a path that I kind of wanted to stay on. And you're right. I mean, like I grew up very religious. I was kind of religious most of my life, and then at one point in time, I actually kind of even made a deal with God that I was going to step away and be just earthly for a little bit, and then I knew He's going to bring me back someday, and I said I'd be ready for it whenever he called me back, start talking about Him again and thinking about Him again, and being that in that realm, I guess, if you will. And it happened, shortly after trying to go through the VA and getting my head right and running into you, and it just kind of snowballed and kind of fit together like a perfect little puzzle piece that you just, you felt like, I just felt like this really weird shape that it wasn't going to fit in anywhere and didn't know what I was going to do with it. And along you came, and you had a weird, funny looking side to your shape too. We started talking about it, and guess what? They fit together really nicely, and we made this little podcast out of it. You're
Absolutely.
you're the Johnny Carson. I'm the Ed McMahon. You're the host. I'm the co-host. That's the way I see it. But it wouldn't have happened without you either. It was your idea. It was you had the program. You started having the thoughts and was getting
And,
ready. You just needed somebody to help push the boulder a little bit.
and I think subconsciously we both knew that like we needed help. I don't think I knew it like when I was saying to you we should do a podcast, but I think we both knew there's somewhere else we need to go. There's something else here, you
Well,
know.
I think the line that sold it to me was, hey, let's just get on here and talk about it like we were sitting in the patrol car waiting for something to happen.
Yeah.
Whatever low moment we had when we were sitting in the car, we were just talking about stuff, talking about life. Let's just have it be that. It'll be good for us. It'll feel good to get it off our chest. It'll be good to see you on a regular basis, even if it's on the phone and on the camera like this.
Yeah,
And
it
then
means a
then
lot to
we
me.
could actually influence somebody and help somebody. And
Yeah.
being that was one of the main reasons I became a police officer. I remember saying this at several different interviews to be hired on. Like, why do you want to be a cop? Because I want to try to make the world a better place somehow, whatever
Yeah.
little way I can. And this certainly fits into that mold as well. So thank you, my friend.
And here we go. And we're gonna keep pushing and keep growing. I'm just gonna keep following the whatever the door opens. I'm just gonna
Keep
go in.
trying to
I'm not
stay
gonna.
positive. Keep controlling what you
Yeah.
can control. Keep trying to share love and spread love. And when you feel the anger come in, try to take the time to wait for that water to stop boiling so you can see a reflection again, and you can be
I
the
love
glove
that.
being used.
I shared that with Kate, the idea that you can't see your reflection when the pot's being boiled.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I didn't say it right, but she looked at me and she goes, that's really good. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, that
No,
Dennis said that.
I stole that from somebody too. Somebody else said that online. I don't remember who. Credit to where credit's due. I'm not trying to steal nothing.
And what's
I
crazy
too
is
thought
like,
it sounded good. When the water is boiling, you can't see the reflection in it. Wait till the water cools down and calms down, and then you can see your reflection in it again. That's when you can start making decisions about whatever it was that got you so angry.
and it's really weird when like I finally got to the point when I was like, I'll just do whatever, just put it in front of God. I'll do it. I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to do it. And then whatever it was for, it's for you, blah, 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 blah. And when I started helping people and playing golf and like all that kind of stuff, I mean, well, first off, since we started the podcast, we were able to kind of make some contacts, talk to some people, help some people with their own missions. They were able to help us, by
Yeah.
keeping us on or by coming on and all that kind of stuff. And we just like kind of put out in the world that we want to help people who are struggling, specifically anyone who might have be specific to where we came from. You know what I mean? Because we could probably help them more than just a random person. You know what I mean? We can
Right.
actually
Well,
say,
but it blossomed even into random people. Remember, like the very first episode, or one of the first episodes, we had a comment on one of the YouTube channels that got taken down right away before I got to really read it. But I remember the main part of it was being diagnosed with PTSD and not being a first responder and feeling guilty or something like that. So
yeah,
much so that we ended up doing a whole episode just to address whoever it was that wrote that or anybody that felt that way that didn't write it. Like,
yeah,
no, this is not just a first responder problem. This is not just a military problem. Everybody faces adversity and has problems and can have PTSD moments and have to be resilient to how to overcome it. I mean, it doesn't have to be a PTSD moment. It can just be a really bad day. It could be bad life things. Death in the family is going to give you PTSD, especially if it happens when it's not supposed to happen. You're going to
It's a
start thinking
normal.
about death more things. Yes, it's actually a
Yeah.
very normal reaction to a very abnormal situation.
Yeah. It's a absolutely normal human response to an extreme circumstance. And it's actually, I don't even want to say that, to any situation that seems overwhelming.
Yeah.
You know, because you can't actually quantify what would be traumatic for you or me and like all that kind of
And
stuff.
everybody's levels are different. Just from maturity levels, from intellect levels, from hormonal level. I mean, let's face it.
And where you are, where
Somebody
you
with
are in your story.
somebody with like Asperger's or any their
Yeah.
mental capability, even though they're in their 20s or 30s, their mental capability is still that of a of an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old type of range.
Yeah.
They're going to respond differently to losing their lollipop than we will. But to them,
Yeah.
that could be like almost the worst thing ever. So
Right.
and I just say that to illustrate that there are so many different varying degrees of trauma and how to be resilient, how to overcome situations. And they're all normal responses to situations that felt really bad, made you feel, that brought you down. And you're having normal responses to it, but the tools to come out of it are all the same. And that is to talk to somebody, to admit it, to recognize that you have these feelings and it's okay. And then how to overcome it, to be positive, to find a positive outlet, whether it's running, whether it's golf, whether it's tennis, whether it's horseback riding, whether it's drawing, painting, music, something, reading a book. Find something positive to do with your energy to get through this bad thing, to find more tools for the toolbox, more situations of other people that have gone through the same things and how they gotten through it. And you're normal. It's okay.
Yeah.
That's the end result. It was okay to feel these things. It was okay to feel that scared. It was okay to feel that bad.
Mm-hmm.
Now what do I do with it?
Right.
Well, wallow in it and stay sad, or get positive and start doing something. So move a rock, fix your sock drawer, get the first steps going.
And give yourself, like, focus on you, not on the rest of the world. Because when we start, I am
Control
so
what
guilty
you can control. What everybody else thinks about you is none of your business.
Yeah.
What everybody else says behind your back is none of your business. Who cares?
So even starting the podcast, I was like, there's all these worries. What could go wrong? Will we look stupid? Is this bad? Is it worth it? Is it worthy? Is it like all these kinds of things? And what we did is we just tried to be like, you know what? Let's just do it. What's the worst thing that could happen? Let's just do it. And then we kind of jumped and we're like, I guess we could keep going.
Yeah,
and then we just like, okay, well, that was interesting. That relates to
guests. That was cool. And we got
so
a couple
cool.
more kind of lining up. A couple people that have expressed some interest that might line up to have a few more.
Things keep adding up. We've been invited to help at an adaptive golf clinic.
Oh,
at the Mitsubishi Electric Classic event coming up this week. We're actually going to be at a Champions Tour PGA event.
Yeah, this is my first senior tour event. Hopefully next one I can play in one of these days.
and we were invited by David, who we had on the show, to come out and help. And the primary focus that day will be helping first responders and veterans get into the game of golf by whatever means they can. And they're going to have all this cool equipment there that will show people how it's possible and all that kind of stuff. You and I are going to get to swing some clubs. We're actually going to try out some new equipment, I think. So we don't have to take our clubs. I talked to David recently, so we don't have to carry them around that whole day. You know what I mean? He's going to have stuff on the range. He may even have some demo clubs from different manufacturers who are, it's an event. So they're going to put on promos of their equipment, and we're going to be the ones kind of messing with it. Now, how neat is that? I didn't see that comment.
No.
That is so crazy.
It's gonna be a lot of fun.
That is so neat. And you're coming down here. You're gonna see how we're living.
I'm bringing my clubs anyway because we're gonna try to play Thursday before this all starts, right?
Yeah. I don't even
if I
care
leave early enough, I'm gonna get there and.
Yes.
Even if we just hit some balls somewhere, we'll do that. But yeah, when he first told us about it, the thing I got most excited about was after the players start the tournament, we're going to get to go to the driving range and hit some of the leftover balls that they didn't finish hitting. And I just heard that at all the different pro events, they're usually like brand new balls, even at the driving range for you to hit. So I'm kind of excited
Yeah.
about that. I want to hit all these
We
brand new crispy balls at the range.
I'm
Something
gonna do
about it
whatever.
just feels really exciting to me. It's fun to
It's
be old, I
neat.
guess.
I'm really excited. And I feel like a kid. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah,
like we're
yeah,
doing this is like awesome. I'm not thinking about like what could go wrong or anything like that. Let's just go. Like it's
yeah.
so fun just to go, and it took me so I now and like I know so my whole like recovery process, I'll get like a year out and I'll be like, I'm fixed. And then I'll get like a year out and I know this is life now that I'm saying it out loud. We're growing every year and everything like that. But like I was able to go to a golf event recently that now reflecting back on it, like I didn't have any panic attacks in the middle of the tournament. I didn't have
Okay.
to go sit down and hide. I didn't like I felt I was there and I was of service to my wife. At one point, I know this sounds silly, but she's like, "Hey, I'm getting hungry." I'm like, "I got you. Let's do this." You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I'm able to kind of like do it for her. And like, I don't know, it just felt so strange
Yeah.
being in public and not looking over my shoulder, like not having to blade back, not having to like push myself against something, or you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
to
No,
kind
no.
of like
Well,
get my
I feel like if you have a problem with crowds and you wanted to overcome it by being in a crowd, going to a golf tournament might be the best place to be around a crowd where it's not going to be super loud or obnoxious.
That's true.
A lot of people are going to be
Depending on
moving
what
moving
tournament.
around fast or anything like that. Nobody's swooping and hollering for the most part. You get a
Yeah.
couple good shots here, you get in the hole, and everybody cheers and that kind of stuff like that. But
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like it's just not quite the same. Like a NASCAR race would probably be a lot louder, a little bit
It's
more
just
disorderly. Like just everybody going different directions instead of the orderly. Like here's where you sit at hole one, here's where you sit at hole two, and you know what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
I just all those little different variables I think could add up to it. So I could see that being like a good transition for PTSD type, like getting back into being a crowd kind of environment.
Because we talked about it before. There was one
Yeah.
time where Kate and I went out to see some sort of show in downtown St. Louis a couple years after I got hurt, and I was sober. And in the middle of the show, I'm sitting in a crowd. You know, I freaked out. I like all of a sudden I was like, I gotta go. We gotta go.
Yeah.
I got Kate running block by block downtown to get to the car at Union Station. Like I was so freaked out just by getting out in public, and it's
Yeah.
just so weird.
It's
I
sensory overload.
Yeah, it's like a sensory overload, and it's the only thing you can focus on. Like it's the only thing you can see. And what I'm finding now is the more I'm able to, um, I was going to say get outside of my body, but that's not right because that means like you're basically in the crowd. So I guess it's more like I'm just in my lane. I'm in my own lane. I'm
Well, it's
not
control.
like,
It's the embodiment of controlling what you can control, kind of thing. If you can just force yourself to like take a second, take a breath, tell yourself you're okay. Nobody's trying to hurt you. It's just loud. You're just feeling like you're overloaded with the sounds, the sights, the smells, the bodies. So many hands to look at is one of mine. Like
yeah,
like I have to be accounted for their hands because their hands is where they hold the guns. So like who's hiding their hands? Who's got something in their hands? That right there can be an overload with just 20 people in a room, let alone
yeah.
200 people in a busy, you know, whatever walkway around the stadium of an NFL stadium or a soccer stadium or something.
This is going to sound crazy, but
I bet
I've had to
now.
go through the process where I've had to let people get close enough to me where if they were going to hurt me, I wouldn't be able to stop it almost. It's like I know they've got the drop on me since all of a sudden they're standing right here on my shoulder. They could like do whatever they wanted. And I want to push off. I want to get in front of them, like all that kind of stuff. But I have to like make myself stand there. And my brain's weird. I'm almost like, okay, if you stab me right here, then I die.
At
It
least
is
I
what
died
it is.
trying. At least I died
Yeah.
trying to get better. That's what I would
And
probably say.
I like I'm coming to the point like if if I do get stabbed right here and that's your plan for me, God, then cool. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Well, there you go. But you
The-
still gave up. You kind of gave up that control function a little bit, and it ended up
yeah.
being better.
It feels sickening at first. It feels sickening at first when you're like, really, when someone's right there, you don't know them, and they
It's
almost are putting out an
an
energy that
extreme
you're like,
vulnerable feeling. Yeah.
yeah. And you're just like, but like you just said, I guess by going through those experiences and just being like, okay, if this goes, and my brain is very much like, I guess, uh, Jane by trauma because I'm thinking you are going to stab me. You know what
Right.
I
Right.
mean? A
Right.
normal person isn't like thinking you're going to stab me. Like I'm already like right now. I'm not even like mentioning the things I've already cleared in my head. I'm like most likely they didn't get a gun into this event. You know what I mean? So they probably got a blade. They're they're going to stab me. They're going to move through the crowd right afterwards, and I'm just going to be standing. You know what I mean? My brain is extreme with trauma, but I, I basically like
It's
for
normal
a
with
long
trauma.
I like for a long time resisted it. I'm like, never is anyone going to get the drop on me.
Right.
Never will this happen again. Never, 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 never. And now I'm just like, I think I've gotten to the point and where I've worked and I have gotten healthier, but I've also gotten to the point where it's just so exhausting trying to always be on guard for everything that could be coming at you because when you're doing that, you're missing everything else. Like you're living
Yeah.
with the glass half full a lot of the times. You're trying to keep what you got. And instead of just being like, God, what you got, and again, that's a huge leap. You know, people are going to hear that. So it was like a progression of like me personally, if I die today, I die today. If I die today, I die today. I'll be trying and I'll be sober. And now it's like a swing to the other side, like, oh my God, like I'm 8 years sober. I'm, like all these things have happened. And the only
Mm.
thing I can attribute it to is like just being like, God, please save me from myself.
You needed to stop and smell the roses along the way for the last 8 years just a little bit more.
I've missed
Celebrate
it
your
all.
you celebrate your
I know.
successes a little bit more.
I've missed it all. Like I missed all of it because it was never enough or anything like that. I felt like I was going to finally get to a point where things would click and I'd be like, oh, now I feel like old Cameron. I don't want to feel like old Cameron anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm happier with who I am now. Like I'm glad I went through everything I went through. Like I'm glad I had the honor of being a police officer and everything like that. It sucks that it was taken from me, but like it all is I
Well,
asked God at the beginning of my life, I just want a great story. And he keeps putting me through this stuff that
makes a
ends
great
up
story.
makes a great story as long as you choose the right path, as long as you turn the thing that was meant to harm you into something potentially positive. Like,
Yeah.
well, God didn't break me to be mean, you know. He almost heard my call. Like I was inside more depressed than I knew. I thought by becoming a police officer and I thought by getting money and I thought by doing these things I'd be feeling better, but it didn't. I still had that baggage inside of me and I needed to handle it. And God knew that and I had to be broken and it sucks. And I would never have chosen that path. And I don't want that path for anybody else. But sometimes the worst moments will become your best moments.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, off on a little bit of a tangent, but I
It was
I
a good
will let's
tangent. It was a good tangent
let's
because
I'm going to
it's
speak it out into the world. I am very proud of us for doing this. I think
uh,
it's very cool, not in like an ego way. I'm just proud of us for doing it. And we've gotten a lot of great reactions and a lot of people. I reached out to that pro recently Tim Cundy, who's the guy I walked into the first pro shop and I was like, I need a job. I'm a former police officer. I just got my master's. Here's my resume, way over the top. And the guy's like, hey, easy. My brother's a police officer in St. Louis. And so I was just thinking about him over the weekend. I sent him a text and I was like, hey, I just want you to know that like you really helped me when I got down here and like I couldn't have done it without you. And because of you introducing me to some people, it's opened some doors for the podcast and like all that kind of stuff. Thank you so much. And one of the things he said back was like, that's very kind of you. God's amazing. He has me in this other position. I'm actually happy to be outside of golf. I'm enjoying my weekends with my family. I'm enjoying my holidays, like all this kinds of stuff. And then he said, keep going with the podcast. You guys are changing lives.
Nice.
I was just like, huh.
So
And I
you
kind
probably
of,
listened to a couple of them or something.
well, I know he's listened to them because he's given us some likes and all that kind of great stuff. But
Good.
it's just like, it's funny that I didn't know I needed to hear that again, because it's hard when it's just you and I kind of talking. And yeah, we
Well,
get
we
some
all
thumbs
need
up and some
affirmation.
comments.
We all need affirmation that we're doing a good job. It's a basic human feeling too. I feel. I think.
Yeah. And so I have to
At least
bring
it
it.
is for me. I don't think I could ever get enough affirmation. I'll say enough. It's good, but if you kept giving it to me, it would make me feel good.
Yeah.
Um, I think
That's
it's
something
supposed to.
right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like you had me sold on like let's just bullshit and maybe we help one person. You're like, you know what? You're right. And
Yeah.
we've done that more than
Yeah.
every episode probably.
Yeah. And now we've been invited to go to a PGA event and help veterans and first responders with PTSD.
Hopefully it's the first of many.
Yeah,
Keep spreading the
absolutely.
words. I'll keep spreading the word up here. We'll get more traction. We'll get more guests. We'll make more reaches. We'll influence more people. We'll affect more people, and somebody will be better off for it, and that'll be our little contribution back to society from all of this.
Perfect. So stories of resilience and tools for resilience.
There you go.
And selfishly, my main focus for the next 20 episodes is you and I are going to hold each other accountable. We are going to grow as individuals. We're going to grow as men. We're going to grow as husbands. We're going to grow as leaders. And at the end
Well,
of the day, we'll probably grow as Christians.
yeah. We'll still make mistakes. We'll still be
We're going to make
fallible.
tons of mistakes. We're
We'll
just
still
doing it
have
in
some
public.
sins. We still
Yeah.
won't be perfect.
No.
Still might say a few things on here that I shouldn't say. I might make a wrong joke. I might have my
Yeah.
facts off a little bit. Somebody needs to correct us on. That's fine. These are things that happen. Just go for it. But remember the intent. The intent is just to help us all get through some hard times, and let's just try to stay focused on being positive for those reasons.
Absolutely. And one thing that's crossed my mind recently is I haven't made some apologies to some people that I think I now am ready to.
Oh wow!
Um,
You're gonna make a blanket
although
one, or are you gonna make them individually? You're gonna actually call them, or you want to get them on the podcast?
I think I'm considering apologizing to someone I never thought I would apologize to. I don't want to, without wanting an apology from them. I just want to account for my own actions.
It's a good way to be.
And so I'm going to figure out the best way to do that. This person is not happy with me and hasn't been for a very long time. I've received legal documents not to discuss my ailments with them, but it is something
Okay.
I've been carrying around, sipping on that poison here and there with resentment, and it's because I'm not accounting for the part that I played, and I need to get free from those situations. And if
Well,
that helps somebody out there, I'll do it on here in public, and maybe we can turn it into something that
yeah.
will inspire other people. I
I was
think,
just going to say, I think I know who you're talking about from the clues that you've dropped. And I just want
yeah,
to throw it out there that if you open dialogue with that person and you get your apology out and you feel better for it, but they actually reach back and start talking to you some more, if you feel the draw to it, to have them come on, I'd be okay with it.
that'd be a big step.
It would
This
be
is
a big
literally,
step. I just want you to
this,
know that I want you to know that I support what you're doing all the way up to the point of even inviting them up to the podcast if you wanted to do it publicly on the podcast. But I'm not saying you have to by any means. Of course not.
yeah,
That's not
yeah.
my place. Whatever
I
feels
just, I,
whatever feels right for you. Whatever you feel in the
I,
pull for, you know?
yeah, I think it's hurting me, and it's tiring me out, and I think it's me holding on to a bitterness personally,
It absolutely
and
is.
and in order to get free of that and to be right with God,
Well,
I
look at
need
this
to
growth that you're showing right now. 20 episodes ago, we talked about some of these things that you're talking about, and I never would have thought you would have been to this point of going like, I need to throw up an apology. It's the right thing to do for my part in it. Not because I need an apology back from them, just because I need to clear my conscience and my side of it. And so that is a big step for you, brother, and good
And
luck with it.
it's because God keeps
Remember,
track.
remember, remember, you can't control the response you get, though.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think I'm ready to do it without
Right.
expecting
I just want, I heard
anything
you say it.
in
I
response.
want to reiterate it. I heard
Yeah,
you say it. I just wanted to reiterate it. You got to make sure
that's
it gets
it.
in your
That's
head because your ego will hear a response that you weren't ready for, and it could really backfire if you're not careful. If you let your
yeah.
ego control it.
I almost don't want to hear the response and just be like, "Hey, I just want to do
Right.
this. Goodbye."
Yeah. I mean, I mean, if, control what you can control, right? You can control not seeing the response by blocking it right after you send your apologies if you wanted to. But
The
don't be scared of it. Don't be scared of it. Let the response come back for whatever it is. I bet you it'll be more positive than you think, even if it's not as positive as you'd hope. And if it's not, then it's not, and it's not your place to really worry about it after that. You did your part. You did what you could do. You did what was right.
even now without doing it, it's good we're talking about it.
Yeah, yeah. And
This is the first step.
this
This
is
is the
what we've done.
first.
This is what we've said all along too. You got to talk about things. When you have these dialogues going inside your head, you got to get it out of your head to somebody so you can hear it kind of reflected and bounced around outside in the real world, and then it'll start to clarify how much sense it really has made, what you need to scale back on, or what you need to do more of.
It's
You got
definitely
this.
like you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make him drink. I am the
Correct.
horse,
Yeah,
and
no, no. But
I
you're
am parched,
thirsty.
but
You're thirsty.
yeah.
You're at the water, and now you're refusing to take a drink because you're worried about I don't know what your reflection looks like in the water while you're drinking. Maybe I don't know what it is. I don't know how to take that. I don't know how to take that analogy and move it on to the other side of it where you're hurting yourself more than you think.
Yeah, we had Chris on, and she talked about forgiveness and how she had to do that. And
Yeah,
I remember that I was like, nope, nope, no.
yeah.
But I just, with
She had to forgive
Easter
a
here,
family member. Lots of family
yeah,
members.
yeah. And I always hear that forgiveness isn't for them, it's for you. Like all these emotions that are pouring out of me, it's like this battle inside. It's like, I need to do this. I don't want to do this. I'm never going to do this. I should, like this kind of like, and then
Yeah.
it turns into like a bargaining with God kind of deal. And like we're doing the show and like all this kinds of stuff. But there's this fucking turd that I keep holding on to. So that's the
If
frustrated
offering this
side.
apology will help you get rid of that turd in your mind, if you will, that one bad hiccup that just doesn't go away, then do it.
Well,
If
I'm not offering it yet. I'm not offering it yet.
yeah,
You can
but
consider it.
well, I just say yeah, consider whether it will help get that bad thought out of some closure, some clarity, some way to move on from it because you're holding it
Yeah.
tight, so tight that you're cutting your
I
hands with your
feel.
fingernails.
I'm feeling like I'm holding it, and by holding it, it's holding me back from helping people.
Right. Well,
And
it's holding you back from fully freeing yourself from those bad thoughts and memories.
that's, yeah, I don't understand it. I am Scottish. I've been told Scottish people hold resentments really well.
Really, that's never portrayed in any movies, historical references at all.
Yeah, you get picked on for enough centuries,
But
Like, did
I'll
you
also say
know?
this, Cameron. I want to say this real quick before we move on from the topic. Um, you can move on from that bad turd in your head without offering the apology. It is possible
Yeah,
because that way you
I
don't even have
was
to disrupt that whole scar or scab or whatever. You don't have to pick at that scab so much that it ends up just hurting you again anyway.
through, and then so
Because
I
what
I
difference does it
aim
make? Do you need their validation? Do you
no.
need their affirmation? Do you need their forgiveness? You need their acceptance of your forgiveness? Do you need all of that? You
The,
shouldn't, because this is just
no,
another man.
no, it's again, this is something I didn't want to accept, that forgiving people would give you freedom and all that kind of stuff. But in AA, they have you write down kind of all your transgressions, like the things that you've done through your addiction or even outside of your addiction where you hurt other people. And you're offered the idea of like you can apologize for these things unless the apology will hurt the other person or disrupt their life. You know what I mean? So you wouldn't like be a guy who will say,
Oh yeah, a guy who
I
had
had
sex with
two
his brother's
families.
wife while they were
Exactly.
high on drugs, and then
And then
now you're
calls
trying to
them
make your
10
amends.
years
So you
later.
call the husband, you call your brother and say, "Hey, I'm sorry, I slept with your wife 5 years ago while we were all stoned," and he'd be like, "I didn't know you did that."
Yeah, yeah. So like something like that. You have to figure out, although like
That's
you
such
know
a
you're
that'd be such
wrong
a messed
for
up
it,
situation to begin with, though.
will your apology be
Right.
selfish and kind of bring things up in other people's world that they have tried very hard to move on from? You know what
True.
I mean? Like you don't want to hurt them by bringing the apology up. Uh,
And
so I
and
think what
yeah, do you feel like you have to apologize because you want to hurt them a little bit? That's something you
that
got to.
that
That's your ego
that
examination you got to do too.
because that's not an apology.
No, no, that's just weaponizing your words to try to say, "Oh, I was just apologizing," but really you're just trying to mess them up.
An apology for me is like me honestly knowing that the way I can see it is like holding someone to a standard that maybe was unfair, or
Okay.
thinking that somebody was somebody based on their actions, words prior to an event, but didn't come through. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So it's like, anyways, there's
But
lots of
then there's
stuff. So,
also still the whole idea that the past happened the way it happened. It couldn't have happened any other way because it didn't.
mhm,
And to dwell on it and focus on it and be your day affected by it is not really positive. And the only
yeah.
really thing you need to do is take the lesson out of it of how you could have done something different and how you'll try to do something different the next time something like that comes around. And then just be done with it.
And I have to
Wash your
be
hands of
deep
it.
too.
Just
I
wash
have to
your
be
hands of it.
deep, and I have to think, does that, well, first off, am I going to heaven? That person's going to hell. I'm wrong if I think for a second that I'm better than anybody
Exactly.
else, right?
Right.
And then it's like, so if we're both going to heaven, whose spot will be bigger? Neither of ours.
Yeah.
Everything's equal.
Yeah.
There's no
It doesn't
person
matter.
higher
Yeah.
than another. So I am holding myself higher by pointing down at this
Uh huh.
person and
By even
saying,
saying
you
I need to
are wrong.
apologize about something that I did, or you need to apologize about something you did.
And I also expect, I have received so much grace and mercy from God in places where I shouldn't have received it. I don't understand how I'm sober 8 years later. Like I don't. I know that sounds crazy, but alcohol like had me. It
Yeah.
was like alcohol had me, and I couldn't imagine life with it, and I couldn't imagine life without it. It was my world. I was
Yeah.
going to die by drinking. And now we're sitting here 8 years later and we're talking about for, forgiveness. What? And even just thinking about it, it does like it activates me a little, but it not as much as it used to. And I feel somewhere God's like working in me and being like, okay, do you remember this? You think this is right?
Yeah.
And then there's like all these excuses like,
I
well,
know.
yeah,
I
yeah, I can
know.
do this.
I
I can
know.
do this.
I know. My
And
prayers. I
then
know.
and then and then it just like and then I clean up everything else. I try to clean up everything else, and just had that little thing in my back pocket with a couple people. And every time I pull it out, it hurts me. It puts bad energy out into the world, which means I'm bringing bad energy into my home
Yeah.
where my wife lives. And I can only see this now so many years later. So many years later.
And I think that would be a good reason to think about the past, is you're still pulling lessons out of it. You're still trying to pull a positive lesson out of
Yeah.
it. As long as you're doing it for that reason, I think that's still okay. If you're
Yeah.
trying to pull negative things out of it, though, that can't be good.
Right.
But at the end of the
Right.
day, you still can't change anything about the past, no matter what. Whether you're pulling good lessons or bad lessons out of it, you still can't change anything. So just be careful how much you dwell in it, because you're here now, and you're gonna miss. You just missed a few seconds of now because you're thinking about
Correct.
then.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm tired of it like
Yeah.
that.
Stop thinking about then. Think about now.
Well said. really, really hard to do.
I know. I'm the
it-
king of like great advice
it-
that I don't follow myself. I know this.
Me
but-
too. We talk to other people with such like kindness
Yeah.
and just like, it's right here, baby. Like, just you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. And then
Yeah.
like the inner turmoil, I was like, but I can't. Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Anyways, we've come a long way in 20 episodes. Thank you to everybody who has been with us along the ride.
If this is
Please.
your first time watching, you've watched all 20. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Like, subscribe, share, and if you're feeling extra generous, leave a comment for us on YouTube or even Spotify, and we can learn from it and keep growing. Please join us on our social media, which is SHT Creek Survivors on Facebook. That's where we put up short videos. I put the short videos on Facebook, and I also put them on YouTube. And I don't know about you guys, like, I'll listen to a couple full episodes of a podcast, even that I'm super interested in. But a lot of times I get a lot of material and a lot of good points just from those quick short videos on YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah.
So what we've done is we've created a lot of those to kind of pull out 30-second or like minute little clips. That way you can just kind of grab onto something and just think about it while you're out there in the world. And if you want to share it with someone, share it with someone. And I mean the idea. Like, talk about it. Like,
Yeah, I definitely am reading all the YouTube comments. I don't know about the other sites as much. I'm more of just a YouTube guy. So I watch all the YouTube videos. I look at all of the likes and the comments, and I try to like and comment back, like, thanks for the comment, or whatever address is addressed in their
100%.
comment, whether it's positive or negative. I'll try to address it back positively as well.
Yeah, bring the negative too, because that, if you're
It helps
having
keep
a
everyone
negative,
accountability. Helps keep accountability. We're not scared of adversity. We're not scared of somebody
absolutely,
not agreeing with us or saying something different than what we say. Bring it on.
we want
We're
to
not
learn.
experts. We want to learn.
Yeah.
We want to
wanna
learn more
we wanna
perspectives.
grow. Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Share your tools with
Like,
us, but even if we never use them, we'll have them to share with somebody else.
or tell us we're wrong. Tell us we should stop. And yeah,
Well, you can. We
something will come from that. That's the crazy thing. We were just talking about the idea that like you're saying that you can't change things in the past. There's no reason to keep going over them because you can't change them. Something that's helping me is actually everything happened exactly how it was supposed to.
Yeah, you've said stuff like that. Being shot
What
in the
if you-
face in a weird way saved your life.
So
It made you
like
think of things that you never would have thought of.
so that is a weird door to open.
Yeah. I
When
bet.
you actually believe that everything you've been through added up to the moment you are in right now, and this moment will contribute to wherever you're going to be. Like it's very, very interesting.
But
Huge
that just reiterates the whole reason why now is what you should be focusing the most of energy on.
Yeah.
Your energy on is now. And then what you do with now, some of your reactions can be based off of past successes and failures. That's fine.
Yeah.
But focus on now. Don't focus on like
Yeah.
all your energy is
Didn't I
on
say
the
it?
past and how you could apologize for one thing in the past, then you're still not giving all your attention to now, and you'll make a mistake now, or you'll lose now, you might miss
Yeah.
an opportunity now.
It's like being a sprinter in the race. You can't be focused only on the finish. You can't be focused only on the start,
yeah.
But
Well,
you
even
also
more than
have
that,
to
you're
keep
a
your
racer
gaze.
that's focusing on training from yesterday. they're not going to use the training time from yesterday's run. They're going to use the time of running right now.
That's what I mean. So
So
like
I'm saying the same
actually
thing. Just trying to.
a sprinter has to be so focused on their actual steps in the moment. If they anticipate too far forward or too far back, they'll get skewed. And then in the moment, also, while they're doing step by step, if they start looking over at other people's lanes, they'll burn energy, they'll lose focus on their steps, and their steps will appear to be harder. If they just focus on, if I would just focus on the steps, and I believe we're getting there. Like it's starting to come true. It's starting to be like just one foot in front of the other. What do we do next? Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Like we're not running the race not to lose anymore. We're running the race to win. And what that does is it kind of like unlocks things. It's like, okay, well, I'll do whatever it takes to win. And then you just have to remember that it's not about winning at the end of the day. It's like, how hard did you play? I played to win. I played as hard as I could. We didn't win. That's okay. I have no regrets.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I played to win.
Yeah.
Compared to a life of, oh my God, I don't want to look stupid. I don't want to fail. I don't want to blah, 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 blah.
That's looking at the other racers, right? That's looking around the other racers. You're losing focus, losing concentration, not making your steps right. Instead of just focusing on the one step at a time.
Yeah.
Just like you said, looking forward one step at a time, staying focused on your goal, and
you
trying
can
your best.
see it.
Looking around means like, oh, I don't have to try so hard because I'm ahead of everybody. I don't have to try so hard. I can slow down a little bit. That's not good. Stay focused. Keep
and you see
forward.
that with pro teams all the time.
Oh, sure,
you know what
absolutely.
I mean? Like March Madness, I don't know,
They're all
many
humans.
games. You see like a team show up, they're like, we're gonna win. And at some point, the game switches to, well, we can't lose. So they're like almost like holding back. You've seen teams hold back where they're panicking, oh my God, we can't lose.
Yeah.
Compared to like, they're like, fuck it, put it all out there. And then if we win, we win. If we don't, we don't. But we're gonna go down trying. And then it's like people free up, they loosen up, and they're like, let's go. Compared to, oh, I don't want to miss this, or I don't want to miss the shot, or blah, blah, blah. It's more about, I'm taking the shot, give me the ball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Those are two very different ways of living. And for a long time, I've been living in, I don't want to lose. And now it feels like we're playing to win.
Okay.
Like, in a way, like we're playing for excitement. We're playing to see what could happen. We're on the arena floor compared to in the seats as spectators pointing and being like, oh, that's stupid. You shouldn't even try. We've eliminated the crowd and just been like, you know what? Let's just do us and see where we end up. Because we've only done 20 episodes. If you really think about it, I've grown a tremendous amount. So that was 20 episodes in about 4 months. Yeah, in about 4 months, a third of the year. And it seemed to go by like that. We grew a lot, or I grew a lot.
We had fun.
And we had a ton of fun. And
Met
now
a few
we're opening
interesting
doors.
people that we didn't know before. Some interesting perspectives from them.
And doors are opening up. So all we got to do is walk through and just see where we can serve. We love you guys.
Go clap. Go
have
clap.
A great week.
Have a
great week. Join us next week, and we'll bring you some more good stuff. God bless. Take care.
We'll work on a couple more guests as well.
Absolutely. Coming to you soon. Take care.
Thanks for joining us for our 20th episode, everybody. Please, if you got any value of any of the first 20 episodes, please like, share, and subscribe. And tell people about the show. Let's keep it growing. Let's keep the impact reaching farther and farther out. And let's keep helping people with resilience and getting back on course in their own lives. God bless. See you next time.